Morning, fellow zombies. Are we alive yet? Are we awake yet? Are you muchly screwed up and sleep deprived? Because I sure as hell am. It's 8:01 in the morning, West Coast time for Monday, the 17th of March, 2025. Yeah, bug infested and bug ridden place. The Weaver John C. of Roseman, California. You're a zombie out here. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's yelling and screaming at each other again. Got something to ask you guys. Shout out to the artist in recovery slash Daryl P out in Connecticut, dude. What's going on? And I had to do my homework on this. He posted something out there that caught his intrigue. And I looked at him like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Another freaking grift? Give me a break. You ever heard of the Trump derangement syndrome? Somehow it was claimed to about a few years back, in 2020, that this mental health thing coming up is like an allergic reaction, a mental health allergic reaction to Donald Trump. Ugh, why do I keep saying that damn name? This year, the Minnesota state legislature wants to introduce a bill. And it's been catching a lot of national attention on this one. I look at fox9.com out in Minnesota. Minnesota lawmakers want to define Trump derangement syndrome as a mental health illness. According to the article, it's going to be changing the state's definition of mental health illness to include Trump deranged syndrome. Currently, mental illness is defined as a disorder or other issues that include in a diagnostic code list. Proposal is unlikely to be approved due to Minnesota's split legislature. And this is created by the Republicans, the Trumplicans in there, I should say, in Minnesota, who want to add the derangement syndrome to its definition of mental illness. In the story, what they know, that they're reporting on it. Set to be introduced today by 5 Republican lawmakers in the Minnesota Senate. The bill proposes changing the state's definition of mental illness to include specifically Trump derangement syndrome. Bill defines the syndrome as, quote, acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal persons that's a reactionary to the policies and the presidencies of President Donald J. Trump. Symptoms may include Trump-induced general hysteria, which produces an inability to distinguish legitimate policy differences in signs of psychic pathology in President Donald J. Trump. Was a psychic? Psychic pathology? Really? Anyway, the Minnesota DFL issued a statement on Monday responding to the statement. It reads, this is why Minnesota Republicans have lost every state election in recent memory. Every time they get an opportunity to try to improve Minnesota lives, they instead double down on an agenda that caters to the party's most extreme right-wing activists. Proposal is unlikely to approve in the split legislature. Bill set to be introduced on Monday and referred to the Health and Human Services Committee, according to online records. Now, what they're digging into. Basically, mental illness, according to the definition, is defined as a disorder or other brain issue that is included in a diagnostic codes list. I have mental illness. Not caused by Trump. Lifelong medical. I'd gotten into a constant fear, fight or flight, that every time I kept going into a medical facility of any sort, including mental health, that my blood pressure would be rising, skyrocketing. I would have hyperventilation and extreme fear. I've been poked, prodded, used as a damn guinea I am a lab rat. to find out what the hell's going on with me, poke and prod me like crazy, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. And growing up as a kid, I had to hold in the damn fear. No one actually gave me out of it. Just a little poke. We need to get some more blood. About 5 vials worth. 5 vials of damn near pass out in one particular doctor's office. Or using medication that's supposed to help me out clearing up a skin condition and damn near kill myself because of suicide tendencies. So right now my body is decomposing even as we speak. I haven't been to the doctors in a hell of a long while. I know I got diabetes. But long stories and a lot of videos on my channel here. Back to the story. According to the article, while frequently used by supporters of Donald J. Trump, and the president himself, who bitches and gripes, see these people, they don't like me, they must have some kind of syndrome against me. Oh, shit. Reference to perceived political opponents. I mean, he used this in his political rallies like crazy all the time, apparently. And he's telling people that they got this weird-ass syndrome, that they don't like me. What did I do to him? I'm Donald J. Trump. You gotta worship me. It's all politics, you know that. Yeah, well, I know it. They try to use any and every grift that got out there to force their issues on people's throats. But the problem is, this damn thing is not universally recognized as a mental health illness. It's not even recognized by the American Medical Association. The AMA has these books out there for diagnosis, procedures, and billing issues. You got IC, international coding, and revenue codes, and HICPIC codes, and codes to get your finger sliced stuff. Well, they got a code for that too. If you got a mental health illness, they got a separate book regarding mental health illness. They got it coded in there of whatever kind of conditions goes on. A long time ago, when I worked at a Blue in a call center, we had ICD-9 code books. We have revenue code books. We had mental health code books. We had information available to us that we can pull up a code, look at the damn thing, see how the billers were billing it, actually billing it. If they were billing it correctly, fine. If they weren't billing it incorrectly, I mean, we had to look at it. We had to look at the diagnosis of the patient. We talked to the billers. We talked to the coders. We talked to the guys with eligibility. We talked to the doctors. But we were not supposed to deal with the patients. Something like this derangement syndrome. It was coined in 2003 during the Bush administration by political commentator Charles Krauthammer, about critics of President George W. Bush. Minnesota Bill borrows the exact phrasing Krauthammer used to describe Bush's derangement syndrome, which reads, the acute onset of paranoia and otherwise normal people in reaction to the policies, presidencies, the very existence of George W. Bush. Copy and pasted the damn thing. Ooh, are they in trouble now? If they were trying to write this damn thing, it's an essay, man. Yeah, they get tossed out on their asses. But basically, we're saying that this damn thing is just a grift or something. Why didn't they say this earlier on? Like maybe every Republican president we actually had would have this kind of syndrome. Didn't I think about it? Well, we were really working on the mass communication back in 2003. And nobody liked Bush's economic policies, and sure as hell not quite sure about the military policies. But right after 9/11, we didn't care about the military policies. We were find the enemy and kick their ass, and that's about it. But the economic policy sucked real bad. So we actually had this kind of policy also happening up in 2016 when Trump made his move and screwed things up for about 4 years in office. Republican Party doing the same damn shit. And I noticed this was about Republicans. Nobody likes me. It's a derangement syndrome. Yeah, they should love me. Give me a fucking break with this damn sycophant shit. So, we have a state that's going to be following this one. I guess every other state's going to be following this one. They're going to have to submit it over to the American Medical Association if they haven't been defunded yet or taken up by the Doge team. If they're going to be doing a copy paste from Bush days, it's not very original. They could have been doing this at every Republican Party. Every time they got in office, we get screwed over one way or another. We get into a war. We get into a budget imbalance. And have a Democrat to get in there and help straighten things out. I'm still trying to research. Okay, mohealth.com concerning about medical coding systems explained. It's dated October 15th, 2024. Primary is your guide to understanding healthcare, most common medical coding systems. Practice of clinical documentation is varied and complex, requiring multiple standardized code sets and terminologies to support all of its uses. Each system has a unique defined purpose related to the diagnosis and treatment of patients. I want to find out how the hell to do this damn coding. And part of it is about the ICD-9, CPT codes, HCPCS, REBS. The ICD-10s is called the International Classification of Diseases. Long healthcare history dated back to the 1800s. Its foundation's role in the medical community with codes representing clinical diagnosis for uses worldwide. It uses for billing purposes. The ICD-10 refers to the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems. 10th provision, which is maintained by the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization, the same damn shit that Trump wanted to get out of. The ICD-10's adapted to use for the United States by the National Center for Health Statistics, also getting Doge attacked. Part of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, also attacked. Why is it used in clinical documentation? Specifying that a patient has a heart attack while at home, or actually had a heart attack at home while working outside. Standardized codes are integrated into electronic health records, enabling critical tasks like generating healthcare analytics, monitoring quality outcomes, tracking mortality statistics, and creating billing claims. Well, that's the portion I understand about there. As part of the coding system under the Health Information Portability Act, or the HIPAA, Health Information Portability and Accountability Act. The codes play a vital role in healthcare documentation and data management, telling me that if I happen to go into the doctor's office, I'm going to complain about a problem. They'll look at the problem, and it's got a code for it. goes to put on billing sheets, sent over to the insurer. The insurer processes out the damn thing and spits out whatever the patient's going to pay. Of course, the patient has to be verified whether or not if they're actually eligible for insurance. And if they're not, they pay full price out of their damn pockets. That's how it works. CPTs are the current procedural terminology. Identifies procedures, technologies, and services, like surgeries or EKGs that support a health system for standardized data about medical procedures. Okay, word salad for you, right? Okay, you go into the doctor's office again. He's got equipment in there he wants to do. Wants to do blood draw. Under professional services, there is a certain procedure codes for that. There are codes for what kind of testing there is to be done for that. Let's just say that they need to find out what's happening in your chest. I know there were certain doctors out there that actually had the expensive equipment, such as an X-ray machine or even an ultrasound. I go in, let's say, for example, into not. Let's just say I had the blues again. Okay. I go into a doctor's office. Normally, the doctors these days would send patients out to facilities. But let's just say that he's got some testing equipment he likes to try on me first. I come in with the condition. After discussing about the symptoms, what's going on, he gets a list of things he wants to try on me to test me out. And their procedures of equipment being used and what's being done. For me, the dreaded blood test. We need to do a complete blood count on you. So we need 5 vials out of your ass. Not out of my ass. Well, I'm not going to do it out of your ass, out of your arm. No, yes. I'm panicking, I'm freaking. Well, we'll put that in there too, that you're panicking and freaking. There's a procedure code for that one. So after the diagnosis has been put in there, the procedures are done, and the patient's coming out of like, I got sucked dry! Where's my wallet tang at? There he is. Drops dead because the blood sugar went screwed up. Sent to the hospital. Worst revenue codes there. But because the procedure's done in the office, professionals done on it, what the kind of procedure is, and they put these codes on a sheet. Biller coders send the information over to the insurance companies. The insurance companies plugs them in. If the guy has a certain type of insurance, he's going to be paying a certain amount of money in a certain way. Now, if we happen to get to the hospital at this point, we're talking about revenue codes. Ooh. Excuse me. What I'm trying to find out is whether or not... Okay, we got the HICPICs. Okay. Alright, Norm. What about revenue codes? Ah, shit. They don't even talk about revenue codes? Okay. Medical coding indicators. The revenue codes are something that facilities would use. Let's just say, for example, if they still wanted to find out what was going on inside my head, but the doctor didn't have anything else to check my head with. Didn't have a CAT scan, didn't have an MRI. Maybe he didn't have the X-ray. Out here in Antelope Valley, California, it's very rare that a doctor's office would have such equipment. They'd farm it out. We have a diagnostic center. Radiology department outside the hospital. Hospital has its own equipment, but for the private stuff, a patient would be sent by his doctor over to this facility. Kaiser's inclusive. They've got their own equipment there. They don't have hospitalization. They can do an MRI, they can do a CAT, they can do an X-ray, they can do an ultrasound. But when you go to another insurance company and the doctors don't have that equipment, they go to our diagnostic center right across the street from the damn hospital. And then there is where they have all the equipment, and this is where they bill up. They bill for the technician and the procedure done. What I'm looking for right now, here we go, revenue codes. Now we're talking about revenue codes. Okay, so when you go in there and you're going to say, doctor came in, here's their prescription. Ah, you're Mr. Such and Such. Yes, we have. I'm not getting a frontal lobotomy. No, that's a hospital next door. I don't know. Did you want a frontal lobotomy? No, I'm just nervous enough as it is. Well, go and sit in the chairs and be nervous. Okay. One thing about the doctor's office is they usually use this constant antiseptic that's all over the place. It's a trigger for a lot of us who don't like doctors and hospitals and stuff. It's a fear trigger. Okay, so you're going in there for a simple x-ray. In my case, if I happen to go to the doctor's office, let's say I still had the blue insurance, and I had a problem with my wrist. I use this one as an example. I sprained my wrist. I sprained my wrist a few years back. The muscles and tendons were stretched beyond, and the pain went through here. For the longest while, I could not use this hand. Woke up one morning and pain. So I thought maybe I'd ice it down and do home remedies. Didn't take care of it much. So I called my insurance company. And I told them, look, I need to get to an urgent care for this thing. I don't need an ambulance. They gave me an ambulance anyway. Uncomfortable as hell for a large guy getting in an ambulance. Ugh. Anyway, we got over to the hospital, got me in urgent care, plopped me in a chair, took an x-ray, looked at the damn thing, said, no, you got a sprain, that's about it. Here's my bill. Doctor's time, like 2 seconds looking at the damn thing. Get charged on that one, get charged for the x-ray, get charged. Now, if I didn't get to the hospital, I would have gone over to the doctor's office. The doctor's office would have sent me over to another place, or maybe got private transportation. If they had an x-ray machine, they would have looked at it, put me through the thing. And then it would be nothing, right? No problem at all. I had Kaiser. Kaiser had to take care of everything. But in an example I'm trying to use, let's say I had a blue insurance. Didn't say Cross, didn't say Shield, but I had a blue insurance. I would have gone to the doctor's office. Doctor's office would have sent me over there, and I'd be sitting down in a chair waiting. Mr. Weaver! Go in there, get the x-ray done. Lab technician will look at the damn thing, send their information over. I get over to the doctor's office. Or maybe they got me at urgent care. The place would have been billing for facility charges, use of equipment, and the technicians, and any other instrument that they're going to be putting on the bill. Now, if the insurance I had was HMO, Health Maintenance Organization, I would have been responsible for x-rays, outpatient diagnostic at a certain percentage, or at a copay. Now, if I had a deductible, I'd have to pay up to the deductible point where the percentages and the copays would really kick in. Let's say I did that. Okay, $50 copay for the x-ray read. Just the x-ray, okay? That's HMO. PPO, a logistical nightmare. But that facility will be charging what they call revenue codes. Now, let's just say if this became worse and I had to be admitted into the hospital, I'd be facing admission charges. I'd be facing ER copays. Let's say, for example, that I had been transported from home by ambulance to the hospital because this had become either infected, broken, and managed and mangled and stuff. And I get into the ambulance. The ambulance would be charging its own professional services, not to mention facility charges, not to mention anything else that they're willing to bill my insurance company. So if the insurance company can't pay for it, I have to come out of it out of my own pocket. And at this point, we're taking me to the ER, and they examined it, and they found out I have to have it surgically done or in a hospital for overnight observation. If it got worse, I'm looking at an inpatient hospitalization here. Instead of an ER visit, which will be through an HMO copay, I get inpatient charges. Now, if I had met deductibles, I pay a certain percentage up to a point. After that, I'm paying it out of my ass. I don't know if the condition got worse and I got like 6 or 7 days. I'm paying for the extra days that my insurance doesn't cover. They'll cover after a certain percentage of money and how many days I'm in the hospital. After that, it's out of my pocket. Boy, am I going to be in for it. And they use the codes on the sheets to tell the insurance companies what they're processing and what they want to get reimbursed for, according to their contracts. I tell you all this stuff because this is tedious, but for a biller and coder, this is our lifeblood. This is what we do. This is what I've been trained for a long time ago. Billing and coding. I look at the revenue codes. I look at the procedure codes. I look at the diagnosis codes and see if everything else is matching up so the insurance company can process the claim properly. And if we need medical records, that also helps substantiate the validity of the claim itself. Bored yet? Okay, that being said, it's up to certain government agencies out here to determine whether or not if a particular procedure or diagnosis code or diagnosis is valid or not, and if there's substantial activity with this kind of condition. Now, if they actually thought that the derangement syndrome, whatever kind of political figure you're going to be putting on top of it, was actually legitimate, they would have automatically put that on there a long time ago. But according to the news article I was reading, it theoretically began in Bush time. But they looked how the articles were being generated and sent over to get it put into billing, and there's no validity for it. There's no medical diagnosis. There's no follow-up. There's nothing. It's just politics. It's grift. It's saying I have wokeism or liberalism. Ideology. So what Minnesota is trying to do is put a grift on it. Trump said it all the time, according to the reports. So that's a grift. Doing a grift as Bush did. Bush Jr. Nothing about Bush Sr. and nothing about Reagan. But I also noticed that wasn't during the time when we actually had liberal Democratic presidents. That never came up. Only when we had anything after Reagan did we complain about the shit. Or was it after Nixon did we complain about the shit? I can't find anything about that one either. But this is how it is. Am I following that kind of syndrome? Because what's been told about it, I would have an irrational behavior. Somebody says, well, I'm a Trump follower. And I believe in MAGA and I believe in this. Fine. You got a condition. You got a medical condition. You don't like me. You got a syndrome. I'm going to get a crucifix off my wall, and I'm going to shove it in your face. Back off, demon. And there's no procedure codes, there's no revenue codes, no hick picks, no ICD-10s I can build for that. Deal with that one.